Welcome back to the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. Our top story today, Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan for one of the greatest interviews in American history. We have the top 5 moments broken down for you here on the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. My name is Elijah Schaffer, and this is the Gateway Pundits Week in Review, where we cover the top 5 stories. Today, we have a special production here on the weekend where we're going over the top 5 moments from a very long and arduous 3-hour interview between Joe Rogan and Donald Trump. In somewhat of a more hilarious beginning, Donald Trump and Joe Rogan ended up laughing how Kamala Harris probably couldn't do something like this. Check this out, where they laughed about her inability to not only answer questions honestly, but even to speak longer than 5 minutes unscripted. Listen.
Can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing this show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do it, and I hope she does.
She's not going to do it.
I will talk to her like a human being. I would try to have a conversation with her.
If she did this kind of an interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on.
Yeah, and that was his goal. Now, Kamala Harris's team says that she might be on the show, but can you imagine cackling Kamala of anybody in the planet Earth being someone who could sit down for 3 hours and have a digestible conversation with Joe Rogan? I would think to smoke weed together, maybe. Maybe they'll drink together. That's probably the closest thing we're actually going to get to any real success there. But the thing is that things took a turn. Basically, Joe Rogan and Donald Trump ended up discussing election interference, which I thought was weird since this aired on YouTube. Shani Rich was saying they were already trying to cancel it, so he made sure to upload his own version as a backup. But apparently it's still up today, so we're still in good graces with our bosses at YouTube. Listen to their agreement on election interference in 2020.
The Russia hoax was a big hoax. It was all a big hoax. So
well, that's clear. That's one example. But that is a good example.
That's a big example. They say it made a 17-point difference. That's a big example, but that's only one. And you could go into the ballots where they wouldn't give you access to the ballots. You could go into the ballot harvesting. You could go into $500 million for the lock boxes.
But just in terms of narrative, so there's 2 things, right? There's the Russia hoax. There's the collusion with Russia that was never proven, right? That's one.
Well, no, it was proven it didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But they talked about it on television.
But it took 2.5 years to prove.
But not only that, but it was a constant narrative on television. So that's a constant narrative that gets into people's minds, especially low information people that just watch the news, that you're in collusion with Russia. So that's one. So that changes the narrative. And then you have the 51 former intelligence agents that work with the original Twitter and get them to remove links. You can't share it on DMs. You cannot share that story. They swept that story because they said it was Russian disinformation, even though they knew it was not.
100%.
So that's 2 examples that are real examples. Now, anyone who considers himself a legitimate, objective observer of American politics, if you really want the best person to win, you would want people to not lie. And the only reason why they got away with this lie was because they continually labeled you as this horrible threat to democracy and Hitler. They kept saying you're going to be a dictator, ignoring the fact that you weren't a dictator for the 4 years where you were actually the president.
Yeah, and so it's kind of weird they continue to tell us, oh, he's going to be Hitler. Literally, he's Hitler. Well, he was president for 4 years, and we didn't get any type of Third Reich. In fact, he's the most pro-Israel president we've ever had. I mean, some might even say he's more pro-Israel than Netanyahu is, and that's an understatement, to be completely frank. And so the idea that some guy who spends most of his campaign and his current campaign sort of pandering to Jewish people, how can you accuse that guy of being a dictator? Those are the kind of lies that we became accustomed to. Well, additionally, though, Joe Rogan and Donald Trump spoke about the necessity to release the JFK Files. And Trump says, well, I think I'm going to do it. Listen.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the JFK Files. And one of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this was your quote, you wouldn't want people to know it either.
So I opened them up partially. I was met with, from good people. I mean, good people. People that were well-meaning. Mike Pompeo was one of them. He's a good person. They called me. They said, sir, would rather have you not. and I did open them. But I was asked by some people not to open them. There's a Martin Luther King file, too, by the way, that they'd like to see. I don't know if you know, but there is that. But JFK in particular. So they called me, a lot of good people called me, people that that you would find reasonable people. And they asked me not to do it. So I said, well, we'll close it for another time. But if I win, I'm going to open them up. I'm just going to open enough time.
Why didn't you open it up the first time?
Because
though?
a lot of times,
what was the hesitation, though?
Addresses, people that are still living. There are people that are affected, and there could be some national security reason that I don't have to necessarily know about. But some very good, talented people asked me not to do it. I opened it up, and then they said, "Would it be possible for us to do that a different day?"
How much of it did you read into?
I think it's going to be just fine to open it. Let me put it that way. I think it's fine. It's going to be time. It's a cleansing. It's really a cleansing. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately upon entering office.
Well, the thing, when people look at it from the outside and you sort of imagine what could be a reason why they would not release those files, it would be there's people that were implicated in the assassination.
Yeah. Well, when there are living people, you generally tend not to want to do it. When people are still living.
Living people that formerly worked for the government.
And living people that were somehow involved in it, and you tend not to do that. But it's time to open them. I can't tell you whether or not they're going to find anything of interest. And I did partially open. I think I've opened 50%, but I was asked not to do it, and I thought that was a reasonable ask, but now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it very soon.
Yeah, he says he's going to do it very soon. Now, who's implicated? What nations are implicated? I mean, that's a question we all have. Now, obviously, they're agreeing, though, there was election interference. At least they were able to come to that conclusion. Now, there's one other person I can think of that has fought election interference, and that's Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell, of course, created MyPillow. It's the most comfortable pillow in the world. But the best part about this is that, it was, a decently expensive pillow, but then everyone started attacking him for his political views, for supporting Trump, fighting election interference, and basically a bunch of stores canceled their orders. So then now MyPillow had this surplus, and they decided to lower their prices. So now you get the best pillow in America for the most incredible night's sleep from a company that supports Donald Trump and fights for election integrity, paired together now at an amazing price. Check this out. Using my promo code Elijah, you can get a MyPillow for $14.88. That's a great price. That's might be the best price in all of history. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Get a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. Upgrade to a king size for only $1 more, and even get the body pillows. Maybe you're feeling a little bit lonely. You don't have a Donald Trump to hug, but you can get a body pillow for $29.88 and even a multi-use MyPillow for $9.88. So go to mypillow.com, mypillow.com. Use the promo code Elijah, ELIJAH, or call 1-800-210-8491 to take advantage of the wholesale pricing. Remember, there is a limit of 10, and there's free shipping over $75 because we're already running out. So get the best pillow, support America, support your night's sleep at mypillow.com. Now, that being said, in more interesting news, it also comes out that Joe Rogan concluded that the only thing that makes sense is that Democrats hate America, as Donald Trump and Joe Rogan discussed why Democrats are blocking voter ID. Listen.
Mail-in ballots are a bad thing.
That certainly is a problem. Mail-in ballots are a problem.
But every other country,
voter ID.
Yeah, a voter ID.
Voter ID is the most bizarre argument that I've never seen anybody articulate in a way that's convincing.
Because
why
they
you
want
don't
to
need
cheat.
voter. Well, it doesn't make sense any other way. I've tried to straw man it, or I've tried to steel man it rather. I've tried to look at it from a position why would you not want people to have ID? And a lot of the ideas are
cheat.
Just ridiculous. You need an ID to get a driver's license.
Okay, but here's now the next step. Gavin Newsom, one of the worst governors in the world, and I used to get along, but I don't get along with him now because he's just too, it's just a whole con job. But Gavin Newsom, the other day, signed a bill that you are not allowed to ask a person, even ask them whether or not they have voter ID.
Now, what could be a charitable reason why anybody
because they
would
want
want
to cheat.
that? But that would be the only thing that makes sense.
But that's taking it to the next level.
Right.
Now, you have ID. The Democrat National Convention, when they had it the last time, I saw They had a sign, like a billboard, on the name of the person, where they live, how they live, who the hell their boyfriends are. Every single, and a big picture. That's for they have an ID, a big ID. It was hanging like you were a prisoner. They had these massive cards, everything. And yet when it comes to the vote, in theory, the most important thing we do, okay? When you go to a grocery store, you give ID. But for a vote, it's supposed to be a sacred thing, and it should be a sacred thing. No voter ID, because they want to cheat.
Well, it doesn't make sense in any other way. I've tried to look at it.
There's no other way.
There's no argument that anybody's presented that makes any sense why.
You know the funny thing, Joe? The Democrats, the people, they all think you should have it. In other words, you should have
Yeah.
voting. If you go to the people, Mrs. Schwartz, Mrs. Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Jones.
Sure.
They say, of course, yeah. Democrats, they say yes. It's the politicians that don't want it, like Schumer and these guys. They don't want it because they want to be able to cheat. Because you know what? If they didn't have it, okay, who is going to vote for somebody that wants open borders? Who's going to vote for somebody that wants to have men playing in women's sports?
It's a good question.
Ballots are bad.
You know, and mail-in ballots are bad. But the voter ID situation is weird, and it strikes me as somewhat strange to this day. But speaking of something more strange, Joe Rogan and Donald Trump also discussed aliens. Listen to this. You won't want to wait until you hear that Trump says, he was never a firm believer, but they definitely probably do exist. Listen.
One of the things that
There's a lot of interest in the people coming from space,
Yes.
And I know you're interested in that.
Oh, I'm very
too.
interested in that. How much did they tell you about that?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd they tell you? How much can you tell?
So
How's that work? Is it like super
I think
top
I
secret?
Can tell,
Tell me.
Well, based on Hunter Biden, I can say whatever the hell I
Yes.
want, right? But no. But I interviewed a few people. It's never been my thing, I have to be honest. I have never been a believer. I have people that Area 51 or whatever it is. I think it's the #1 tourist attraction in the whole country or something. Area 51 in Las Vegas. Do you know that, right?
Sure. I know what it is.
So anyway, but it's a big tourist thing. So I interviewed jet pilots that say they saw something. If you saw them, you'd love to have them as your
I've had a
son.
couple in here. Commander David Fravor.
Yeah.
I had him in, who had that sighting in 2004. Very,
Yeah.
very compelling with video
compelling.
evidence, radar evidence.
I interviewed,
Ryan Graves.
I don't believe his name, but I interviewed jet pilots that were solid people. Perfect. I mean, great pilots, great everything. And they said, we saw things, sir, that were very strange. Like a round ball, but it wasn't a comet or a meteor. It was something. And it was going 4 times faster than an F-22, which is a very fast plane, And it was round, which is, in theory, a great shape.
So when you were talking to these people, was this something that you were compelled to have conversations
No.
about? Was this your personal interest?
A little bit. It's not a great interest for me, but it's a little interest. I get that question as much as almost any question. Do you think that we have aliens coming, flying around or whatever?
What do you think?
There's no reason not to. I mean, there's no reason not to think that Mars and all these planets don't have life, because
Mars, we've had probes there and rovers, and I don't think there's any life there.
Well, maybe it's life that we don't know, but
maybe there was life there at one point in time. This is the speculation about Mars, that Mars had an atmosphere at one point in time, a long time ago, that could support life. It also had large bodies of water, but we've had no evidence of even bacterial life that exists on Mars. But the universe is pretty vast.
It's not been a big thing for me. I mean, when I looked at what China did to this, they would have never done it with me, where they put the balloon up, and a lot of people thought for a little while that was one of these things. So,
that's a lot of the speculation too, that some of these drones that hover over battleships, that these are Chinese drones, and that they're not UFOs.
They could be also.
There's some super sophisticated.
But I did interview, let's say 3 or 4 guys that, and without tremendous interest, if you had them. As I said, you'd love to have them as your children. Solid, beautiful people. They said, sir, there's something there.
There's something there.
They've said it, yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to quite a few of
them.
them.
They're not conspiracy guys.
Well, I mean, just the Commander David Fravor thing in 2004 off the coast of San Diego, they clocked that thing going from 50,000 feet above sea level to 50 in a second.
Yeah.
They don't know what it is.
That's tough to beat.
Yeah, they saw something in the water. It was hovering over that something that was making a disturbance in the water. They got video evidence of this thing. The 2 different fighter jets with pilots in them saw it. There's, visual evidence, photographic evidence, video evidence, radar evidence, whatever the hell it is. It moves in a way that would turn a human being into jello if they were inside of it. The G-force, no one would survive.
Oh,
so what is that? And it doesn't have a heat signature. They don't know what their propulsion system was. But
when you fly in some of these jets, these pilots have to be in great shape.
Oh, yeah. I flew with the Blue Angels once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to fly. I guess it's an FA-18.
And those are older machines.
And they're crazy.
When you fly in some of these things,
oh my
it's
God,
amazing. Yeah, but
I can imagine.
You got to be special.
But these things that these people are encountering are far superior to what we know of.
Yeah.
And apparently they are. They're encountering all types of alien life. Now, in the end, it ended up being a very, very friendly interview. It was more of a conversation than anything. And it seems like they ended on a good note. Check out how they closed it out.
How long have we been talking?
A long time.
Let's go.
Probably like 3 hours.
I got to make a speech.
Right.
But we'll do it again. I want to do it again with you.
Okay.
You are something.
Thank you very much.
I said, how long will this last? Anywhere from an hour to 3 or 4 hours.
How long we do, Jamie? 3 hours.
Good. Well, we'll do it again. I thought it was great. I think it was
great. It was a lot of fun.
You are a fascinating guy, and you've done a great job.
Thank you very much.
I'm a big fan, and thank you very much. It's been an honor. And
it's been an honor to have you on as well.
I'm going to make a great speech, and I'm going to say, and if I'm a little off tonight, I'm going to blame you. I'm going to say I spoke to this guy for 3 hours. Anyway, it's a great honor to be.
Thank you, sir.
What a great honor it was for all of us. We just summarized the 3-hour interview down to 15 minutes. Some of the things that you might have missed was him talking about RFK Jr., getting America healthy again. These are things that matter to me as a new father and someone who's trying to raise my kids in a country that has been so difficult to find quality food. And so, there was a lot of other notable moments. You can find the rest of the moments clipped out by the Vigilant Fox on X. He's an excellent follow. He has the best clips and the latest information every single day. My name is Elijah Schaffer. Thank you for watching the Gateway Pundits Weekend Review. Have a great rest of the week, as always, and may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.